All right, so we are now recording, and it's week 8, the last week, and this session is all about answering questions. Tina's already got a good question going. I talked to Janet. I think it was Janet. You asked about string halt. We could
Yes,
talk
I emailed you about string halt and metal on halters.
right, and I sent that back to you. I don't know if you got it.
No, I've been busy in the barn.
Yeah, I got a reply to you, but we can talk about that too. So, so anyway, and if there are any other questions, this is the time to get them out. We, in past sessions, people wanted to know a lot about the differences between the different equipment, high intensity versus low intensity, and all the different manufacturers. And we can talk about that too if you guys want, or if there's just other things that you really want to talk about. Tina, you have a really good question about colicking, and you say that there are some people that have been saying that PMF causes colic.
Well, right after their session, like right when their session ended, the horses showed symptoms of colic where they were kicking at their stomachs, laying down, rolling, just the usual discomfort that comes with a colic. And I was wondering if you'd ever heard of that or had that happen to you.
No, I've never had that, and I've never known anybody to have that. What PMF really does is it brings the body back to its natural state. So it does improve the blood flow, but, you know, if the horse had some issues prior to being treated, the PMF would, I'm not going to say it would make them more pronounced, but what it does is it does improve the circulation of the blood. So if anything, you know, it prevents, I can't say it prevents colic, because some colic is a result of their gut being twisted or a severe impaction of food, you know, a concentration of food that gets lodged in the intestine or somewhere in their digestive tract. PMF is not going to help that. But what it does do is it helps the digestive system become more flexible. It increases the blood flow. It does release toxins, but the toxins basically go into the lymphatic system, and then the lymphatic system gets rid of it. Only in real rare conditions where the liver and is not handling the amount of toxins that go into the spleen or into the lymphatic system, and starts backing up into the stomach. Well, people feel nauseous. You'll hear that, but that's only because the toxin's really kind of backing up into the stomach. There is a lot of releasing of toxins, but I've never seen or even heard of it causing or aggravating colic. Now, some people and some horses, if they have a sickness coming on, like some sort of a flu or, you know, a cold or something like that, it will actually bring it on, and it will make it go through your system faster. Like, I just give you an example. My son, he had a cold that he was kind of fighting off, and he pulsed for about an hour, and then right after that, his cold like came in full bore. But then it only lasted like about 3 hours, and it was gone. And so it really just came through his whole system so much faster. That's typically what happens. Is that it may, if you have something that is coming on, it may bring it on faster and then get relieved, usually very quickly. But otherwise, what it's doing is just returning your cells back to their natural state. So it's not really doing anything unnatural or you know, really like changing things. So if a horse has some, if you think about your intestines, you know, it's really a long you know, fibrous tube what PMF does is it really makes that more flexible. And so it is able to move things along more smoothly. But and then there is a colic protocol, but the colic protocol really is designed to stimulate the acupressure points that help stimulate digestion. So I've had great success with that, and I've had even the point where you start. Now, this is really more for gas colics, like I said, impaction. If a horse has a concentration of feed or whatever, and it's really severely impacted, or they have an intestine that is twisted, it's not going to fix that. That physical type thing it's not going to do that. But what I have had is my horse. We have this little difference of opinion with my wife. My wife likes to give my horses cut up carrots and apples into little chunks. I like to feed them whole. And she says, oh, well, if you feed them whole, they'll get caught in your system. Well, she chopped them up and put them in my mare's feed, and a carrot got lodged in her esophagus. And, you know, she was definitely showing signs of like, you know, some blockage. And we called the vet out, and the vet came out and started tubing her, got it down there, and was like, boom, yep, there it is. And they couldn't get this carrot to move through. So what we did is we put the medium loops right where the impaction was, and we started really pulsing it very strongly. And so it was really moving. And it was funny because she really just started like salivating, and she started like, oh my God. She put her head down and just like was really, you could tell it really felt good for her. And that pulsing sensation and the combination with the vet of trying to move it, we finally did get it dislodged. And sometimes that's what you'll see with colics, is that if you put the loops right under their belly and you start pulsing it, you can get the system moving, similar to what happens when you're walking them. Or sometimes people will say, if they're colicking, you know, put them on a trailer and drive them around, usually drive them to the vet. They get to the vet and it clears. Well, that kind of jostling around will help. So
Hey, John, this is Angie. Can you hear me?
I can.
Great. I wanted to add to that question that Tina just asked regarding that post. I saw it as well. But what I thought was odd is they had mentioned they took the vitals of the horse prior to the session, and I just thought that was odd because I've never taken vitals. I've done this for over 2 years, and I asked why they took vitals. You know, was there a reason? Was there something going on? They didn't respond to me, and I too have never had any issues of colic during or after a session. So I thought the post was a little odd. So have you ever taken vitals before a session?
I actually did it 72 times one day.
Really?
This one lady, this one doctor, in Atlanta, we did a demonstration, and we had 4 machines in this really hot office building in Atlanta on a Saturday, and we treated 72 people. And before each session, she took, this is people, for each session, she took their vitals, and every single one of them, blood pressure dropped, blood sugar level dropped.
Nice.
Yeah, all of their vitals improved. And she was dealing with a lot of really, really sick people, cancer patients, diabetes, you know, some really, really sick people. And some of the drops in blood pressure, for example, and and blood sugar levels dropped significantly, you know, 30 or 40.
Now, how long were they on the machine to get that kind of results? Was this a 30-minute session, an hour session?
20 minutes.
in 20 minutes, their blood pressure and their blood sugar dropped.
Yes.
Significantly or just like minor?
Significantly, 30, 40 points.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, like if someone came in, you know, with, we had some that were in the 200s, like, you know, 220 over 150, and it would go down to like, you know, 160 over, you know, something like that. Yeah, it was, and I actually have chronicled my blood pressure as I've done PMF, and I've noticed that after an hour session, my blood pressure will drop 10, 20 points. I had, before I really started doing a lot of PMF, I would have blood pressure ratings of like around 140, 150 over maybe 110, 120 even. And, you know, was kind of concerned about it, and was definitely on the verge, like they wanted me to take some medicine for it. Well, I did the PMF really for my back, but I started noticing my blood pressure started going down. Now my blood pressure is 110. I'm 115 over maybe 70, 72.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, my blood pressure is perfect.
Because my husband was just diagnosed with high blood pressure, so I think I'm going to stick him in my chair.
For like 60 to 90 minutes a day. Just get him to sit in there and start reading, you know, and or watch TV. If you're watching TV, sit in a chair. You know,
Okay.
I'm not an advocate of watching TV, but if he does that, it dramatically helped me, and I've seen it help.
Okay.
Literally hundreds of
Awesome.
people.
Do you still treat yourself every day?
Not every day, maybe 3-4 times a week. If I go out hiking a lot, I'll do it. If I know I'm going to be sore the next day, I'll do it. If I do something really stupid, I do it. You know, like raking leaves and, you know, or, you know, trying to get something on, you know, out and like pulling, and all of a sudden, oh no, that wasn't good. But the funny thing is, so I'm 60 years old, right? And I have zero pain. Zero pain. I met with one of my college roommates today, and he remembers me in high school. I flew off the trampoline and landed on my back. He remembers me as always being in pain. It's funny because he was like, "Oh yeah, you had a terrible back pain all the time," and I, as you know, 10 years ago, I was in really constant pain. I felt stiff and sore and really, you know, we really went hiking a lot with my son this week he was here, and I like hiked more than all these guys, and zero pain. So I mean, it works. You know, I better feel better at 60 than I did when I was at 20. So all you old farts out there, there's hope.
Watch it, watch it.
Let's see. So Natalie asks, "Are you noticed a horse's muscle having an uneven pulse? What do you think this means? I've noticed when I have the loops on, sometimes it jumps around from muscle to muscle." So you got to remember that the pulse follows the path of pain. So if the pulsing is following that path of pain, now you don't want to treat where it's pulsing necessarily. You want to treat where the source of that pain is. So as you move it around, you'll see, oh, if I'm over here, it's pulsing, and it's pulsing all the way down their back. But if I move it off of there, it stops. So you kind of move it back and forth and see where it starts pulsing. Where it starts the pulsing, that is where the source of that pain is. That's where you really want to focus in on, not necessarily where it's traveling to. So like, for example, you can have a sore spot in your shoulder, and when you're pulsing it, your arms will be pulsing. You know, your arms will be moving, flapping along. Well, you can pulse your arm all day long, but it's in your shoulder that is the source of the pain. So once you get the source of the pain, usually the rest of it goes away. And depending on whether or not it's a muscle, tendon, ligament, or nerve, it really depends on where that travels to. Sometimes muscles will pulse because the one spot of the muscle is sore and pulsing, where the entire muscle is not necessarily. So it will be pulsing that entire muscle or connected tissue to it. So does that answer your question, Natalie? All right. So Natalie, I mean, Janet asked about string halt, and I don't know, have you guys ever come in contact with string halt before?
I asked because I have one horse I treat that has string halt, and I just wanted to know what the best protocol is. I've been doing the whole body and then that right rear hip and leg a lot, and I didn't know if that was the best or what.
So I did do a little research on it. I found out that there's actually two kinds of string halt. One of them is called an Aussie string halt, Australian string halt, and that really is a result of a weed that causes the nerve cells to respond, and that is it's more of a neurological type thing. And that one, they say that as soon as you take them off the pasture that has the weed in there, generally it goes away. There's the other kind. This is the normal string halt. They don't really know what it is, but prognosis is not really great because it can continue on. But so if you're in that, and there are also several other things that they list that, you know, could look like string halt, but yet is not. But what present is, you know, sore muscle, sore foot, you know, pulled nerve, whatever that's causing that horse. A string halt basically is they're lifting up that rear leg in a really exaggerated, jerky way. And shivers is kind of close to that. We had a horse that had shivers. And so when you're treating it, you have to be sure that you really are aware of what it is that you're treating. Is it a muscle or soft tissue? In which case you can put a lot more intensity on it and slow the frequency down, so you're putting more. If it's nerves, though, you don't want to do that. You want to have it pulsing at around 7.8% frequency, and you want to have it so that's a low intensity. Nerves don't like to really have a lot of energy going to them. That aggravates the nerve. So and then if it's something in their system that is causing that, well, then you're really looking at kind of a detox. So when you're treating them, and really you start out pretty much the same way with full body treatments, and then going specifically at the areas that are affected. But with this, I would say, since it has the potential to be nerve, I would make sure that the first few sessions you do not do a lot of high intensity stuff. You keep it on the low intensity. Try to keep it as close to 7.8 frequency as you can, and see how that responds. If it responds and you're able to then, where you can see the horse is doing much better, but there's still areas of soreness, most likely those are like areas of compensating sorenesses, or where, you know, they had the condition, and yet as they were, you know, lifting their leg up, it caused other areas of sorenesses. Then you can start to go after those areas of muscle soreness with higher intensity. But you really want to make sure that, number one, the toxins have flowed out of their system, and number two, that the nerve damage has been healed. And nerves heal faster than muscles and bones, so that would be the progression that they would heal. You would heal the nerves first, and then the muscles, then bones. Now that also brings up another thing about another good point about colicking. That if you have a horse that is exhibiting signs of intestinal distress or feeling uncomfortable, the best thing that you can do is turn that intensity down so that the frequency comes up to that 7.8 level, and just run it on that for like 5 to 10 minutes, and that will really clear their system. So it kind of does a cellular reset. And if they do have have toxins backed up into their system, that will really clear it out. So it just helps the system kind of wean out the toxins and slow down the flow a little bit, and gives the lymphatic system and everything more of a chance to respond. So if you have somebody that is feeling kind of sick and nauseous or headachy, the best thing to do is what typically happens when it happens is, so all the toxins accumulate into your spleen, which is in the middle of your back, and then you'll go and you'll treat the middle their back, and that spleen then, which is full of toxins, release, and that your lymphatic system just can't handle it all at one time, so it backs up into your stomach, and that stomach makes you feel a little nauseous. So when you turn the intensity back down and the frequency up, it just kind of gives like if the analogy I like to use is like if you were a bicycle racer, you know, and or a real heavy lifter, and you get your muscles all really tight and tense and everything. Like you see these Tour de France guys doing this, that after a big session, they'll actually get on their bike and they'll spin their legs just on a stationary bike for 10-15 minutes, and just let their muscles really spin very freely. That helps free up and pass the lactic acids and all the toxins that are flowing into your system. So oh, and then another thing is, if it's an uneven pulse, probably the biggest contributor to that is uneven power supply. I've been treating a lot of horses for Samantha. She's getting back into it with her new baby, and several times I've gone into the barn and plugged it in, and nothing. I'm like, my system's broke. Oh no, what am I gonna do? I got 4 horses to treat, and sure enough, it's the power supply that I'm plugged into, and I have this old power cord that I'm using, and so I bypassed the power power cord thingy, and went on, like so. And then this one barn, I noticed all the fans were kind of going on and off, and like kind of corresponded with my machine. Like, so barns are notorious for having poor power. In fact, there was this one barn up in the Northeast. I can't remember who the client was, but she blew 4 machines. It's just like what the heck? This was early, when we early on had the X was just being introduced, and she plugged her system in, and she blew 4 machines. You just have really, sometimes some barns don't. The electricians didn't grind or ground the power. And I know nothing about electricity, but I know that's not good. That third little plug, that third little thing, that's a ground, and they didn't have theirs connected. So let's see. Natalie asked for the spark gap chamber. Oh, the uneven pulse. Yeah. You're talking about the uneven pulse from a spark gap chamber?
Yeah, I've noticed that, like, I'll put it on one area of the body with the same intensity, and then I'll move it to another part of the body, and it'll go, and it'll kind of sound like Rice Krispies, like jumping all over the place. But then I move it to another spot, and it's an even pulse again. So I'm just curious at what that could be.
Well, it could be just real sensitivity to that one area, but if you're hearing a sound that's coming out of the machine that is irregular, 9 out of 10 times or more, it's the power supply. Now, if you keep going back to that area and it keeps doing that, when you go back to that one area, it's probably that one area is extremely sore. So what you have to do when you get an irregular thing happening is you try to narrow down what is exactly happening and trying to remove as many variables as you can. So is what you're seeing happening in your machine, or is it happening in your horse? And you know, and a lot of times, or is it happening in the power supply that gets before the machine? So a lot of times, you do this troubleshooting. You try to start narrowing down what the source is. I found that a really good little trick is to go out to Best Buy and buy an extra cable, an extra power cable, and put that in your car. First off, I can't tell you how many times people have lose their power cables, including me. And if you have an extra one, and now for me, standard is an extension cord and an extra power cord goes into the thing. A horse steps on your power cord, or something happens that you blow your power cord, and you can, if you have another one, and they're only like $10 from Best Buy, and you can even get an extra long one. So that's a really good, and if you start having power problems, it's like, if I replace the power cord, does that change things? If I replace the plug that I'm plugging it into, and make sure you're not plugging it into the same place that the power supply is coming from. Like a lot of times, you'll go to a barn and one will be plug at one end of the barn and one at the other end of the barn. When I went to Pulse Bulls in Missouri, I got all the way to Missouri and I plugged my X in and nothing. I didn't get anything. So I'm like, oh man. I hope it didn't blow my machine, but I went and plugged it in the other side of the barn, and it worked fine. Like, again, it was like, so I knew that it was the barn wiring. So, all right. Any other questions? Aiken girls, come on, you guys got some questions.
So I had an interesting thing, since we're on the discussion about muscles pulsing differently, and I just thought I'd share it with folks. I was pulsing a horse last week, and he almost had, it was a phantom pulse, essentially. I had already moved away and was in a different position on the opposite end of the body, and yet you could still see the spot that was pulsing. And I thought that was really interesting. And my approach to that was to actually just go back and do the basic kind of trickle charge response over that. And then I used some of my massage training, and it was actually at the T1 C7 junction right around the shoulder, and I just did some basic effleurage on it, and then also looked to do a little bit of shoulder release, because to me it just seemed like it was kind of like a Charlie horse that was occurring, and it was just kind of, for lack of a better term, holding the charge and kind of recycling it in that one spot, and that worked. So within 5 minutes, it was his flesh was back to normal. So
that's good. Yeah, you do see that, and that was a really great response to doing that. Yeah. So what you have to do is just kind of let it alone for a little bit, kind of cool down, and then massaging it. That's a really good thing. But I think the actual source of that, I've seen that more in dehydrated horses. So when your muscles.
Because I'm sorry, John, it makes total sense, because the reason why I was pulsing this horse is because he was also having a hard time sweating. So there's definitely something going on with him in that regard. So, yeah.
Yeah, when they're dehydrated, if you're dehydrated, you can feel it, like your muscles just like hang on. The other part of it is that low magnesium. Mm-hmm. If you have a magnesium imbalance where you get really low on magnesium, if it happens to a person and they're going into like a lot of Charlie horses or cramps, where their muscles are cramping. I think magnesium, more often than not, magnesium will really help that. But hydration is the key, So.
No, I was going to add to that too and say that I always joke, because I call it the aliens, when you have it pulsing elsewhere, right? And I always got all jealous because Ethelyn Churchwell would get it all the time. She does mostly Western horses. And so I wondered if there was something kind of went along with that, and I wonder if that's exactly it. They're kind of a way it shows for longer periods of time, doing really, really sweaty stuff for longer periods of time. But yeah, so we always call it the aliens. And I did see on the private page, somebody, one of the new trainers, said it's because they were pulsing too high, and that's not what the cells can handle at that point. And I just wanted to say I'm not sure that's exactly the case. There's never been a horse that's uncomfortable when it has an alien. I think it's literally kind of, and you could vouch that it's just a standard process of it, like it's the body working itself out.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and this horse wasn't uncomfortable either, you know.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like, isn't that interesting? So.
Yeah. And the first time that really happened to me, I was at the World Championships in Oklahoma, and it happened like 3 different times. I'm like, man, this is really freaky. What is going on here with these quarter horses? Like, I thought maybe it's just like they really high twitch muscles or something like this. And then I found out, no, actually, this one trainer told me, she goes, actually, what people do is a lot of trainers, they put them in the back of their stall so they can't drink for like long periods of time. I mean, they intentionally dehydrate the horses so that they move slower. I'm like, wow.
It's horrible.
You don't get that in hunter jumper market. Not dissing any of the quarter horse people, though. You guys have your thing. I don't agree with it, but it's your thing, whatever. But anyway, you'll see that. And people will ask, I always get that, you know, yeah, I'm here at the show and my horse's muscles keep twitching. Like, yeah, let them drink. So anything else?
The
Everybody's got questions.
The arcing on the metal, the reason I ask is I was treating a lady and I asked her, you know, the normal, you don't have a defibrillator, blah, 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 blah. And she all of a sudden jumped and she said, I got shocked. I was treating her back. And we're all laughing at her. You didn't get shocked, you know. And so we put it back on her and she got shocked again. And it did. I said, what's on your belt? And she had conchos on the back of her belt and it arced and shocked her. And it was actually, you know who John Lyons is? It was his wife. And I'm like, Jody, you did not get shocked. And she said, yes, I did. Well, the second time, it had to have arced or something with that metal on her belt.
Yeah, metal will. You'll hear it snapping. If it's arcing, like if you have it to a chair, or I've never had it to a halter, but I could see metal on a belt. It's probably really not. It's probably was very high quality silver, so it really conducted the electricity very highly. So that's probably what it was. But yeah, if you hear it snapping or she gets a little shock, then yeah, you just have to take the either the metal away or the PMF away. Right. If it's on a chair, like if you get and you're treating somebody and it has a metal frame chair, you'll hear it snapping. And if it's high enough, you will actually see it sparking. So you will see the arcing. Now you don't want to let that go on. It's not going to kill anything right away, but you don't want to let that thing go on very long, because what's happening is that all the power is coming out through that little spot, and it will burn a hole in the tube, and it will definitely, if it goes on long enough, it will wear out the copper there. It will disintegrate that copper at that point. So, but you got to do it a long time. I mean, if you just got a chair that's going and going and going, and it's sitting there snapping, and you got to turn pretty high. I mean, you have to let it go for a long time before that happens. But
right, I won't let somebody sit in like a metal chair, but she was actually on the couch in our motorhome. So it was like, at first we didn't believe her, but then when I knew she had that metal, and that's why I questioned the metal on the halters. I always have people use a rope halter if I'm doing their pole or whatever.
Now, chairs do have springs in them.
Right. Well, she was on the couch and probably there's springs in there, but
yeah, so couches do have springs.
Yeah, it was one spot on her back, and she did have a concho right there on her belt.
It was probably, yeah, probably a silver or whatever from her belt.
And that's why I wondered if halters with the metal buckles and stuff could have the same effect. And that's why I do rope halters.
Yeah. Rope halters are good because they are more flexible and you can get them under there better. But hunter jumper people don't have rope halters.
I don't use rope halters for a reason, at least unless if they're free in the stall, and that's just totally a safety thing because that stuff doesn't break.
Yeah.
I do a lot of barrel horses, so.
Yeah. You know, I really rarely, unless I got the old troublemaker that is, goofing with me, but I rarely even tie my horses up. I put the halter, I put the lead on the halter and I just let it sit there. And if a horse wants to walk around in a circle a little bit, I kind of let it, and it'll settle back in. And I have been doing more and more of just letting the horse kind of be free. You do get those ones though that they start playing with you, hey, I'm going to step on your cord. Watch this. I'm going to step on it, and then you get going on their hamstrings and then they'll start walking around in a circle, and like, okay, you're going to have to get tied up, but then they'll just kind of, most of them though, they'll just settle in and, they have a favorite place in their stall that they want to stand. Like I treated this mare the other day. She wanted to stand with her head away from the aisle. She just liked to have her head in the corner. Like, I don't know. I don't want to look at anybody. And so I just let her. When I was in the front of the stall, she was kind of uncomfortable and everything. So I just untied it. I'm like, where do you want to stand? And she turned around and sat with her. So it was fine. I mean, it worked out better. She calmed right down and she was just like perfect. So. And then you don't have to worry about them like, doing anything. Just, I find that the absolute best way to get along with a horse when you first walk into their stall is to come right up to their head, rub them all over their head, around their eyes and everything, and then move them back and forth. If you start moving them, and you can move them really, really lightly, I mean, even you have to just move them just a little bit. You start moving them, and then as you move, and I always take my hand and rub it all over their body and to see where they're sore, where their muscles are feeling tight. And as I'm doing that, I'm kind of just moving their feet side to side and moving them back and forth. And then go on both sides of them. So, okay, both sides are good. There's no place that they don't want you to touch them. And just move them around just a little bit. You don't really have to move them around much. Then they just like settle right in. They're like, oh, okay, you're cool. Yeah, you're the boss, so I get that. And I'm just going to just sit here. And they just calm right down. And I found that every time that I don't do that, like if the owner's sitting there talking to me and, I'm like, and I bypass that, I get about halfway into it and I realize I'm not like connected to this horse at all. And this horse is like ignoring me and walking over me and all that. And so then I realized, oh yeah, I kind of ignored him too. So, so Tina, how have you gotten to treat any dogs? Been doing any dogs yet? I can unmute you. Oh.
No dogs yet. I've been doing horse shows lately. So I have another horse show this weekend and I'm going to just take my machine. So I'm excited.
Good. All right. So do you guys want to hear about the difference between the different machines? Now, I think everybody here that's on the call tonight has pulse center equipment, right?
Yes.
No.
No? Who doesn't? Natalie.
Janet.
Janet, what do you have?
Magnawave.
And so you have the single loop and the butterfly loops?
The big ones, and the single, and the butterfly, and the paddle, and the box.
Okay, so this is a good place to start. So Jan, do you understand the differences? Like you've been seeing a lot of demonstrations and stuff with the pulse center double loops.
Yes.
So there's a big difference between double loops of the pulse centers and the double loops of the Maglev. And again, I don't sell machines, so at this point, I don't have no preference one way or another. I'm just pointing it out because it makes a big difference as to how you treat some horse.
Yes, I'm seeing that, and I'm understanding a lot.
I'm kind of having a hard time hearing you. So.
Oh, I said I am seeing that, and I'm understanding some of the downfalls of the Magnawave. But I've been happy with it. I mean, it's fine, and I'm in a different world than you guys because I'm retired and I really don't want a big business. I have more than I want. We bought it for our own horses, so it's working. But if I ever wanted to go bigger, I think I'd change.
Well, the one thing that I want to say is that when you're using those, especially the big double loops that are really one loop joined at the top, you know, figure eighted and taped to the top, just keep in mind that where that taped is, where they're doubled up, that's where all the intensity is. So really, you're much better off just going with the single loop because there you have a unified magnetic field. And the only difference between that and the pulse center is that pulse center now has two of them and are going from opposing sides and joins together as one, where you're just pushing it from one. Now, I had a Magnawave for years before I got to the pulse centers, and I treated horses and did great. But with pulse centers, you can have it on both sides, so you can be getting the benefit of them, you know, doing both sides. But you can still do the same thing, just doing one at a time. But that's way better than having the magnetic field really powerful at the top and then nothing coming down at the bottom, and where you're having a really uneven magnetic field. So you're really going from the top, and versus it's much better to have that single loop going from the side and really focusing in on the muscles that you want to treat. So that's a big difference, and you will get much better results if you use that single loop and you focus in and stay in the same pattern that we use, but you're just doing, you know, one section at a time, and you develop a little different pattern because you're not able to treat as big of an area. So what you're still doing, though, is you're really focusing in on that area that's inside the loops, and then making sure that you're overlapping and treating all of the main muscle groups as you go.
Right. So the butterfly, I mean, I'm totally understanding that. So the butterflies, it would be the same scenario, correct?
That's what I wanted to know, actually. Could you explain what the butterflies are? Like, I haven't seen that one from Magnawave too.
Yeah, the small butterfly loop is just the same thing as the big one. It's just a smaller one. And what they do is they actually took a loop that's this size. They figure eighted it, taped it in the middle, and then folded it over. So it's basically two loops that are joined, and then go like this. But as the joining part, they have there's twice the power. And actually what it does is it really concentrates the power where they're taped together. And then the power diminishes as it goes out into the loop. And because you have one magnetic field that's been basically cut in half, it diminishes a lot further as it gets out.
So then their large loop is just one loop. And then their butterfly is small because it's a twist?
Yep. Yeah. So Magnawave has a small butterfly loop, and then they have a big, large butterfly loop, and then they have a single loop. The single loop is really what you should be using. It would be like taking your pulse center loop and just having the two coils together and using it like that, you know. So that really is the big difference.
The paddle is good for moving around on a horse when you want to really target an area. I feel like I've found that.
Yeah. Now the paddles, keep in mind what the paddle is it's a paddle, and it has the coil. It runs around, you know, in concentric circles, smaller and smaller circles, and that center area is the most intense area. But it has a more even distribution of the power going through the entire circle, as opposed to the loops, which have the most intensity, are closest to the loop, you know, the cables. So the paddles are really good if you're wanting to focus an area evenly in one spot. Like if you have a knot or something like that, or one specific spot that you're really trying to do. And another thing they're good for is like the colic thing. When you're trying to stimulate acupressure points, if you look for acupressure points, you don't have to hit it right on the thing. You can just be in the area and you're still stimulating those acupressure points. So, but so there's a big, you know, there's this so we used to sell IMRS and systems as well, and there's always this big war going on between low intensity people, the IMRS, beamers. There's a whole bunch of others, little systems that don't sell very much but make a lot of noise, and versus the higher intensity systems. And there's one guy particularly who was always bad-mouthing high-intensity systems. And what he really did was just kind of put a bad taste in their mouth about PMF in general, because most real consumers didn't understand any kind of difference between high or low. Like there really isn't, but they would just kind of lump it all together. Well, if higher is not good, then low must not be very good either. And so never quite got that idea. But the low intensity systems, I use the analogy of gardening, like gardening. If you're gonna, PMF is a lot like watering your garden, in that you're sending the magnetic field into your body, same way as you're watering your garden. Well, you can water your garden with a little fine mist, or you can do it with a fire hose, you know. High intensity system is kind of like having a fire hose, but you can turn it up, you can turn it down, you can have it going very lightly, you can have it going very strongly. Sometimes if you have a lot of water going on in your garden, it kind of runs off. And you can't direct it very well. But if you have a fine mist, you can still water your garden, but it has to stand there a long time. And the water will gradually seep into the soil. But if it's a fine enough mist, it will never really get deep down into your soil. It just kind of stays on initial labor. That's what the IMRS and the Beamer do, and they will tell you that if you really, really read their documentation, is that they work on the theory of osmosis, and that if you treat the outer layer of your skin, that it will, by osmosis, it will go and penetrate into your body. And I have not experienced that. We actually slept on a IMRS sheet that they were marketing as the fauna, or their horse solution. The IMRS has, and I don't know if they still do, but there was basically two sheets that you would hang up and you would put the horse in the middle of it. And the two sheets had PMF that was coming out of the sheet. So it was like surrounding your horse in a field of pulsing magnetic field, which, as a theory, I thought, wow, that sounds really good. Like you're going to surround yourself. As the actual reality of it was that we tested several horses for several weeks, found no difference. We didn't see any improvements. We didn't see any, like after you get done treating a horse, you can take the horse out and you can tell the difference. It's like, you know, oh, that horse really moves a lot better. You know, you can really see the difference. After several weeks, we did 2 weeks, 4 weeks, we did 8 weeks. We saw no difference at all. And so our response to that test was that didn't work. We also took that sheet, because now we had a couple of systems that had these sheets, and we put the sheets in our bed. And so we put them underneath our a pillow top above the mattress, and we slept on that, and we turned it on for between 20 and 90 minutes before and we went to bed and before we got out of bed. And that little tiny trickle charge, it did make a difference. I mean, I have to say, it did make us feel better. Like you would feel not as stiff as you normally would getting out of bed, and we definitely had a little better sleeping. I sold it to several people that had trouble sleeping. These were elderly women, and they put it in their bed and they turned it on, and it did work. They actually had improved. So it was one of those things that we were calling the sleep system, but it didn't work on enough people enough of the time that it really turned out to be anything to be. So what PMF low intensity does is it sends a low amount of PMF into your body, and it has just very, very light usage, and you need to do a lot of it before you get any benefits. Like you have to do weeks and weeks or months and months before you really start seeing the benefits. And these are the same benefits that you would get on a high intensity system in 1 or 2 or 3 treatments. So as a practitioner, it's not anything that is worthwhile doing, because you couldn't charge somebody and get them to come back and you got to come back and sit in my get treated on my mat for a couple hours a day for a couple of months before you're going to see any results. People want to see results like that day. So
John, as an add-on to that, what's the commentary right now? Like, I keep seeing kind of either post or whatever it is from Beamer that's now like an 8-minute session.
Yeah. Oh, so I love the 8-minute session. Do you know how, and I actually heard this from a pretty high level person. The IMRS actually started the 8-minute thing. So, and Beamer just adopted it. But do you know why? This is really funny. This is how things get started. So do you know why people, they chose the 8-minute session? It's like, well, it doesn't have anything to do with that's the most effective treatment time. It has to do with, they did a survey and they found out that 30 minutes is, that's too long for most people. I'm not going to sit for 30 minutes. 10 minutes, that was too long. People didn't do that. Less than 10 minutes, yeah, I would do it more often if it was less than 10 minutes. If I get some benefit less than 10 minutes, they got the highest number of responding positive responses on people that would do it if it was less than 10 minutes. So they said, well, 9 minutes is just a little less than 10 minutes, but 8 minutes, now that it's like pricing something at $9.95, So they said, oh, 8 minutes, yeah, they got the highest number of people positive responding to using it at 8 minutes. So that it's in all their marketing. Oh yeah, you can just use it for as little as 8 minutes. And you're going to get some benefits. Well, then people really started taking that and going, well, you can't do it for any more than 8 minutes. So it's just completely not true at all. And as we know, and as we've proven, the more you do it, the better it is. And with low intensity systems, you really need to do it. 8 minutes, it's like you need a you need a dump truck of PMF in order to feel better, and they're giving you a tablespoon, is what is really turning out to be. So yeah, the 8-minute myth is completely untrue. And on the flip side of that was the Equipulse people and the Maglev people originally were saying you can't do it for more than 4 minutes in any one spot, and you can't do it for more than 24. You can't do it as you need at least another 24 hours before you can treat again. Again, that's not true. But the one thing that you can say, and especially is if people are getting some benefit from PMF, is that, and they have a low intensity system, is that if you like the low intensity, then you'll get much more benefit from a higher intensity. The thing about the low intensity is that it's priced low, and that does get more people involved in it. So, I don't know, Carrie, did I answer your question? Yeah, okay. Any more questions?
If you
Can
have
you-
a horse,
Oh,
if
go
you
ahead.
if you have a horse with ulcers, and we've talked about treating ulcers, but if you know that they are actively bleeding ulcers, should you treat that, or is that not good?
If it's actively bleeding, I would hold off because of bleeding, you will actually promote the blood flow into that. Yeah, in that. Yeah, anything that is actively bleeding, yeah, you want to wait until the active bleeding stops.
That's what I thought. So.
Yep.
Can you go over the list acronym again for, I know she explained it during the dogs. Can you go over what each letter stands for again?
The list?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a really important one because I may be on the test. I don't know. It's so funny. I have a hard time remembering that. My wife knows it, but the first one is L, and that is love.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was love or location. That's love. No. Okay.
It's love. The second one, the I, is intentions. So whatever your intentions are for the system. The S is for surroundings. And I love the way that she set the surroundings of her treatment area, including her pet owners, so that it was a positive experience. And then the T is touch, and with dogs, it's really important, and it was to have a touch of confidence but yet gentle. Horses, that's very important too, but they respond more toward first establishing your dominance, and you want to be confident, but you need to make sure that you've established your dominance, and then as soon as you do that, then you can be super, super light. But some horses more than others need you to sometimes be, you need to be actually just as strong as you need to be. Some it's very, very light, others it's more. But dogs, though, I mean, almost uniformly, they want a confident but yet very gentle touch. So list: love, intentions, surroundings, touch. So I thought the way that she did that was just really good. All right. Any other questions? So how are you guys doing with your business? That finding now, Michaela, you're relatively new. Carrie, you've been doing it for a little while. Janet, you're fairly new. You just told us, things are going good. You're sort of retired, but this is not like a main thing for you. So,
Right. I've been doing it for 2 years, but we go to Florida for 3 months in the winter to ride. When we retired, we used to show the paint pinto world, and I did the special needs population on horses for 30 years. And when we retired, I said, I just want to take care of the horses and trail ride and enjoy life. And I do a lot of people, and they get upset when we leave for a couple months, and I have some bull riders that come to me, and I do a lot of barrel horses, but I'm not trying to, I don't turn people away, but I'm not trying to have a huge business because we're retired. It's like, I don't want to be off pounding the pavement every single day. I'm hoping that my daughter will do it when her baby gets a little bigger. She's a vet tech, and I'm hoping that she'll do it.
Yeah, we have quite a few vet techs that do it now, and they're naturals at it, and they make a lot more money than they do when they're vet tech. And
exactly.
And they have and they have their own hours. They're their own boss.
Right.
And they learned a lot when they're vet techs, so that they're used to seeing and handling horses and seeing different things. And so the one thing that I got to say about practitioners, this is what a vet tech has a lot of experience at, is that they see different things. And a lot of times, when you come to a barn, you're seeing this snapshot of a horse in this one particular moment. And you really have to look at the horse in its holistic environment, because before you got there, there was things going on, and when you leave, there are going to be things going on that are out of your control, and you're just seeing this one little picture of this horse, but yet, for the horse, it's really a whole continuation, and there are things that are going on both before and after, like this whole colic thing. You don't just show up, have a perfect, happy, healthy horse, and you do PMF and boom, it's going to colic. A lot of times colics are the result of, very chronic problems that are going on in the digestive system. And, those have been building up for a long time. And so you show up and you have this period of time where you say, oh gosh, did I cause or aggravate the colic? Well, you really have to look at it in the whole context of that horse's experience over, from before and after when you got there. I had one when I was early on. I had a horse that this one woman, I really wanted to get into this one woman's barn, and she had me treat this one horse, and the horse was pretty sore, but it wasn't, it wasn't terrible. And I was really expecting to have a great response from the horse, because I felt like I made some progress and everything. And so I showed up the next day at the barn, and I did the demo and all that, and showed up the next day at the barn, and like the horse was like in horrible condition, like was walking like three-legged lame, not three-legged lame, but just like stiff as a board and all this stuff. I was like, oh my God, what happened? And she's like, yeah, you didn't help that horse much. And like, wow, And then I was kind of talking to some other ladies at the barn, and I found out, yeah, that horse casts itself regularly. This is why she wanted me to treat it, because it casts itself regularly. And that night, it spent most of the night. They have a camera on the damn horse's stall, and the horse spent most of that night upside down, cast in the corner of the stall. And she knew it, but she didn't tell me. Well, she said, yeah, look, it didn't really help that much, horse. Well, the horse spent the night upside down in its stall, Of course it's not going to help the horse. Probably did help the horse a lot, but yet what happened after I treated it completely negated anything the positive that I had. So you see that all the time with racehorses. You treat the horse, and then they go out and have this, a tremendous effort, and it undoes the progress that you made. I had the situation where this 80-some-year-old woman, I was treating, and we had this kind of like this little PMF party, and we had a bunch of people over to this one guy's house, and he invited this one lady, and she was very skeptical and everything, but anyway, she was the last one to go, and she's like, all right, I guess I'll do it. Everyone else is having such a thing. I guess I'll do it. So I treated, and this was like on a Thursday, and we were going to come back on Monday and do a follow-up session on Monday, and everyone was going to tell us, what happened, and so we treated her, and she got up out of the thing, didn't say anything. This was kind of like, So it was like 20 minutes in the chair, and I think it was like a total of a 30-minute treatment. She got up, didn't really say anything, and then the party was over, and everybody left. So the next Monday, she comes in, and I'm like, I can't remember her name. I can picture her face, though. It was a little old lady with gray hair. And I'm like, so how did it go? She's like, I feel worse than I've ever felt. I am so stiff. I can't believe it. I can barely walk. I got to get on that machine first. And I'm like, what? Like, what? Okay, come on, sit down. And I start treating her. And I'm like, how come you're so stiff? And she's like, well, when I left here, I felt great. And I went out, I played 36 holes of golf. I gardened for the whole Sunday. I couldn't believe it. I picked all my weeds. And then this morning I wake up, I'm so stiff, I can't even move. I'm like, well, geez, do you think? I'm like, when was the last time you played golf? Oh, I haven't played golf in years, and you played 36 holes, Yeah, I felt so good. I did it again. And and then you went and gardened, like any one of those things, and I would be like stiff as a board, and she's like, yeah, I guess, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I want to do some more of this, But if I just taken her from like, oh, this is terrible, I feel horrible, I'm stiff as a board, like I would have been like, oh, discouraged. So you got to keep in mind what's really going on in their whole life. So. And that kind of goes when you're treating somebody, both before and after. Ask a lot of questions, ask about what's going on in their life. So Angie, how is it going with you out in Utah?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Business is good. I've got a lot of eventer clients. I've been going to clinics and horse shows, and we've got 2 places to go to tomorrow, horse show on Saturday. I got a lot of prelim riders. I can't complain. Took 2 years, but.
How are you getting business?
Facebook, word of mouth, going to barns. That first year was tough. PMF was not, well known here at all. I was pretty much the first person. So I gave a lot of sessions to trainers. Like, hey, try it out. And then I would just, please get on your horse right away. Because that's how I found out people were really noticing a difference when they would get on and ride right after. People who are doing a session and throwing their horses out in the pasture or stall or whatever and not doing anything for the next 2 or 3 days, oh, it did nothing. And I'm like, well, did you do something with your horse? Did you lunge him? Did you ride him? Did you see their movement? Something. So, that was kind of my thing, like, okay, I'll give you a session, but, get a group of people at the barn, get some of your students, then get on that horse, or find the stiffest horse that's in the barn and, let me give a session. And, I mean, that was really big. That really helped, But, yeah, I had to do a lot of legwork. I drive an hour and a half to 2 hours because, barns are spread out here in Utah, so it's a lot of travel, but I try and get as many as I can in one barn in one day. So.
Do you have like a list of clients so when you go to an area you can let other people know?
Yep. Oh yeah. Got quite a few followers on my Facebook page now, so that's nice. And like primarily our English people. I try to branch out in some of the barrel racing, but I kind of don't have time for both. So which is fine.
So you're doing mostly eventing and stuff.
Eventing. I got a couple of the big dressage barns and a couple of hunter jumper barns.
Yeah, so, dressage people really love it.
Oh yeah. So that's a big one. Yeah. But yeah, primarily as eventers. I really like going to Utah events because, I'll do things like, before dressage and after cross country. I have a lot of people that take advantage of that. The last one I went to was at the Skyline, and I did 18 horses in 2 days. It was busy. So I'm really glad I dove into this and went down to California and spent those 3 days with you guys. That was fun. That was awesome. So still wearing my hat.
You were in the group that we had that wild Saturday night or the pizza night.
Yeah, the wine. Oh yeah, that was fun. Yep, the big glasses and PEMF the wine. That was fun.
Yeah, so in our jump starts, it was 3 days, and typically the middle day we would go out to dinner. The second day we would go out to dinner, and we treat everybody to a pizza dinner and wine. And this one place in down in California, we found this great pizza place, but they advertised as like having, I think it was like having like the biggest glass of wine.
It's huge. It was huge.
Yeah,
it was ridiculous.
So Sherry was like, "That's the place we're going to."
Yep.
And then you guys started singing. I didn't sing, but you guys started singing the movie show movie tunes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I can't remember which one. But it's like, okay, you can have one glass. Well, the glass was like 4 glasses in one. It was ridiculous.
I know. It was like literally this huge
it was huge.
Wine.
Yeah, it was a good time. It was a lot of fun. I really wish you guys were still doing it. It was a lot of fun.
Well, I actually have since I've been treating more horses and gotten back into the barn, have really started thinking about like, man, maybe we should do another jump start,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it'd be fun. I would come just to hang out. It would be fun. Yeah.
The thing is, when we did one of those things, we had this term called jump start tired. At the end of that 3 days, all three of us just like, oh my God, we're so tired. Like we just empty your whole being out during those 3 days. And it's like this, except for 3 days long. And it got to be so, it was really, really, and when we do it on the road, like not at your group, but I think the next group in California, on the first night, we set up our tents. So we have 2 tents in our trailer, and we have all the systems. We have like maybe 4 chairs, bed, of all the systems set up, everything's set up. We have carpet down, signs up, and everything.
Nice. It was nice.
Yeah, and we're like, we're not going to take it down, after the first night. The weather was like, it's supposed to be maybe 10 miles an hour wind. It's not going to be that bad. About midnight, we're in the RV and we start hearing this buffeting, like the RV starts shaking. We start hearing like, holy cow, what is that? And all of a sudden I realize, oh my God, that's the wind. And this Santa Anita wind or whatever, some wind just started howling, and for about an hour it just howled, and then it got quiet. And I'm like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen. So I didn't go out there, and this is like a midnight. At 7 o'clock the next morning, we were supposed to start our jump starts at 8:30. I went out there at 7 o'clock. The tent, the chairs, everything, carpeting, all the way down, way at the other end of the parking lot. I mean, wrapped around a tree. It was just like everything was gone. I mean, gone. Oh my God, this is too much.
Oops.
So, fortunately, Walmart opened early. We went and bought 2 more tents and set everything up. By 8:30, we were all set back up again and ready to go. So we're like, I think I'm getting too old for this.
No, it was a lot of fun. It was very educational, and it was well done.
So we're thinking about doing it again.
You should. Yeah, my husband and I just jumped in the car and drove 12 hours for it, and I looked into this, spent 6 months research, almost went with Maglev till I saw the little yellow box on Facebook, and I was like, "What's that? They don't have one of those." And so then, of course, you guys had better machines. I thought, better machines, better price. Financing was great. So I told my husband, I'm like, hey, I'm going to California if you want to come with, you know. And he's like, now what are you getting into? And I'm like, well, never tried it before, you know. I'm just, you know, I was like, well, I don't know. I'm going to try it. So I was excited that you guys offered certification for him as well. So he was able to take the class. So we're both, you know, certified, and, you know, so that was a bonus. That was a bonus. Yeah. So yeah, I primarily do it, but what's awesome is when he's home, he goes with me to shows, and it's something we can do together. And we're both 50 now, and, you know, going to retire soon. So it's what we hope to do long term.
Good.
So thank you.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad it worked out. And I think some people start off faster than others, but as you know, as you stick with it, all those people that you visited, they eventually come around. You know,
Yep.
Michaela, you finally hear the word, and
I mean, it was hard. I'm not gonna lie, it was hard. I didn't give up though.
That's good. That's good. Yeah,
Well,
I wish there are a couple others.
Oh, I was going to add to that and say, because that's what I told Michaela after last week's that we got talking about it. And it's really, you like have to be conscious of what your market is. And
exactly.
Here in Aiken, our market is very heavy with trainers versus adult AMIs. So in adult AMI, you can walk around a show and they'll have all the time in the world because they've got one horse they're showing. Where if we try and walk around some of our shows, especially a lot of them are horse trials or something, then it's most of the trainers have horses that they're trying to get 3 rides in one 24-hour segment. And so they're like, there's no way. So it's interesting because it's very dynamic depending on where you are. And I don't think people keep track of that in their businesses as to what they're marketing towards.
Exactly.
It's a super important part of what your recognition is.
Yeah, and that's absolutely true because you know, some trainers, you walk up to them and like they've got three kids that are getting on their horses and they're going to go in their class right now, and that's all they're thinking about. You go up and try to talk to them and they're like, don't bother me, you know, I have no time for you. But yet trainers more than anybody as a single class will respond to Facebook Messenger. It's like, you know, they just seem to respond to Facebook Messenger. I don't know what it is, but like that's how I communicate with, you know, my top pros and everything. Margie Engel and Will Simpson. I have a question with them. I send them a private message and they respond, you know, versus, you know, try calling them or emailing them. Like they'll never respond to an email, you know.
Well, and I thought that was super important in what you said a couple weeks ago was go around and get the numbers off of emergency contacts, which most of the time has the trainer on it, and then just text the trainer. I think that's genius. I've not thought of that. And that's a great way to do it because it's very, when you have time, you get to reply. It's not, you know what I mean? They don't feel like you're taking up their time right now.
Right. And if you do that though, you really have to be really crisp on what you say. Like you have to hit them, boom, here's the benefit, you know, take it or leave it. And if you don't, if you don't hear back from me, then I'm not going to bother you again. You know, it's just like you just get one shot at them. You better make it a good shot and really deliver something of quality. Otherwise,
like give us a vague example. Like, what are you thinking? What do you say?
What would I say to a trainer? If the trainer is like a hunter jumper trainer, you know, I would say that I'm here at the show doing PMF. It will help your horses. Like if it's especially if it's a hunter rider that I know is really big into hunters, it makes your horse softer and has a better range of motion, so they look prettier. Boom. If it's a jumper trainer, then I say it will improve their range of motion. They'll recover faster and they can jump better. Like so, it's. One is geared more toward performance. The other one is geared more towards look. If they're both, I tell you one thing that right now is really big in performance horse world is recovery. Clearing out lactic acids. There's a bunch of stuff that's on the market about clearing out lactic acid. There's nothing else that clears out lactic acids than PMF. So helps your horse recover faster so they can perform better. That's like my, you know, and I was funny. I was I was walking around the show last week, and I like caught myself saying, it can help your horse. What was I saying? Heel faster. I was saying heel faster. And I'm like, after I said it like 3 times, like, what the hell am I saying heel faster for? These horses aren't sick. I'm like, I shouldn't say heel faster. I should recover faster. So then I said recover fast. Like, I had to consciously change my little script and like recover faster. And because I actually, before I left, I was talking to the Roxanne and her thing, and I just had this, healing faster thing in my mind, and that's why I started saying it. And I'm like, they don't care about healing faster. So you really have to, what you really should do is have 3 things in your mind that they do. For performance people, recovery faster, perform better. Hunters, they have a softer. You hear hunter riders talk about their horse after they've been treated. They say that they're just softer, and that really is a great way to portray it. Your horse is going to feel softer. It looks just a prettier picture, and it really is. For jumpers, though, recovering faster and performing better, they can jump higher, more power, bigger range of motion. That's another one, but that's kind of a harder one to. I don't know. People don't really seem to grab onto that as much as they should, because if their range of motion is bigger, everything else works better. But for ponies, though, a big thing is that it helps make their stride longer so they can get down the line better. There's a lot of ponies that really suffer from that. Their shoulders get tight and they like, and then they chip in at the end, and now they're out. So those are some of my little sayings that I use. So what else do you guys want to talk about on our last one? It's funny because this is the 3rd one, and the first 2 were so different that I like. This was one of the things that we did with our jump starts, is we really kind of kept an open curriculum to some degree to let the what everyone wanted to talk about, come through, because everybody has a little different experience, different markets that they're in, different levels where they are in their practice. But Angie, it's good to hear how that you're doing well and how you're doing it.
Yeah, I went down to 1 day a week at the hospital. I was phlebotomist for 13 years, so I'm happy about that.
So you just keep the 1 week to get the insurance?
I just do 1 day a week just because to help out my community, and I've been there for 13 years, and they actually need me. We're a small hospital, but we get real busy.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I can stay as long as I only work Tuesdays, so that way I can plan the rest of the day a week, or if I want to go out of town, because a lot of my clients are like, hey, come to Archer, come to Colorado, and I'm like, well, I probably can now because I leave Wednesday and be back Monday, So.
Oh, that's great.
Now we have good insurance. We have military, retirement, so no, that's all good. But no, it's definitely been a really, really good adventure. And then we bought all the people attachments, as I think you remember, just before you left. We got all the. Yep. So I've been doing a lot of riders, trying to offer a. Also, I was going to ask you, what would you suggest if you were like trying to say, hey, I want to do a rider horse combination thing, would you give discount? Would you say, just to try and get them to, motivate more to get those riders in your chair?
I do $100 for a horse, $50 for person.
Okay, that's basically what I do. Okay.
And I tend to give the person a little extra time. I said it's a half hour.
Yeah.
Per person, and you can give them a little extra time. And I do it. I usually do them last, though.
Right. Okay, that's what I've been doing.
Because then they got to stick around and see how the horse likes it.
True. We're thinking about getting another EQX so that my husband can be like do people and I can do horses at the shows. somebody from call centers tried to get us to upgrade to the, is it the X, EQXX or something with the two?
The 2X's, yep, double X.
Okay. Yeah, so anyway, we were like, well, no, we'd actually rather have 2 machines. So then, you know, if you need to go to one area, then you can go, you know, he can be at the tent or whatever and do people, and I can do horses. So that's going to be our next, you know, our next goal. Let's get another machine.
Yeah. Well, what we did that really worked really well, but it adds a whole another layer, is having the tent and then going out to do the horses. The nice thing about having the tent is that it gives you that stationary focus where you can really market.
Mm-hmm. But you need 2 people.
People know where to go to get you, you know, but then you have to man it. You have to, you have to be there, you know, you have to be there. And it takes a lot of energy to stay in that tent all day long. And that's what Sherry's job was. She was in the tent, and where I was going out and treating horses and stuff. And, you know, it took a lot. But it does add, you'll find that your business really grows when you do that, if you do it right. Like, you got to have the marketing down to be able to get, you know, you got to have the point where, you know, where you're really able to go around to the barns and generate interest, and have the whole marketing down. But then once you get that down, because then when you go around, you can say, you can offer, well, if you're sore, you know, stop by our tent, and, or if you've got sore horses, I can come to you. So you got 2 things to go at them at. And a lot of times, if you ask somebody, anybody, are you sore, your dog's sore, your horse is sore, you got a pretty good chance one of those are going to be sore, and they're going to be needing something, you know. And then when, you know, horse people are great, because if you can treat them, they go like, oh, that's great. I don't really care about me, but I really want, you know, this would be great for my horse. Most of the time they will spend, I've actually had so many people say, well, I've had moms say to their daughters, I'm not going to spend it on you, but I'll spend it on your horse. I actually had a lady last week, her daughter was like, oh, my shoulders are so sore. Can I do it on that? She's like, I'm not going to spend the money on you, but your horse I'll do it on. You know, and I just kind of looked at the girl, and I go, you come by, I'll get your shoulders, you know, get your mom by with her credit card. I'll get your shoulders, you know, and she did.
Nice. Yeah. She
did.
That's awesome.
So, then I just put the old, the loops on her back, like a backpack, you know, and let her stand there for 10 minutes while her mom was getting her credit card out. And as I just sat there and talked to the mom and everything, and the girl's going like, oh my God, oh, this is good. Like, here, just sit down on the tack trunk for a little while. And she got up and she was just like, oh man, that made such a difference, you know? So the old backpack.
Yep. Yeah, I love that one.
Hey, John, I know one thing you covered in the Jumpstart that I always liked, and I can't remember if it was you or Sherry or if it was even Laura, discussing kind of like the kind of a rising tide premise of making sure that everybody's holding prices so that across the country we're all kind of similar, and then it keeps everybody afloat, and as the tide rises, everybody rises. Where I know there's kind of the battle of who can do it cheaper, who can do it. But you guys always have a very good way of projecting that, like, lose the clients that don't want to bother.
Yeah, well, there's a whole thing in business, you know, you can, if you're either going after value or you're going after price, and people, and then people are either or, you know, you don't get Walmart shoppers to shop at Nordstrom's, you know, and if you're going to go after price, you can almost never be cheap enough, because there's always going to be someone that is going to do it cheaper. And if so, your only strategy is to discount, you will be going out of business, because you just can never keep going cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. You go down to $80, someone will get down to $75. And if your whole value thing is, oh, I'm cheaper, then you're going to have to get down to 60. And then someone's going to do it for 50. And then someone's going to do it for 40. And then they'll do a spot treatment for 20. And you're like, So what are you doing? You know, versus, so you really got to learn how to sell and do value. And that's where, if someone, my first thing is always like, I want to give you more, not charge you less. I want to give you more. And we try to keep our prices, you know, at $100, or we do a package for 3 for $250. And for people, it's $50 for 30 minutes. And for dogs, it's $50 for 30 minutes. And if they want more, well, you know, then I try to, especially people, you know, I'll let it go longer than the 30 minutes. So, and we found that those prices, if people are interested, they don't really, I mean, if someone does like 10 treatments, I have some people that just did 10 treatments. You know, they had a couple of horses and they did 10 treatments. I gave them 10% off, and they were ecstatic. I mean, but they, you know, spent $1,000, $2,000, and I saved them $100, and they were like, wow, okay, great. But they saw the value in it, you know, that I sold the value first. You got to learn to sell the value. Yeah. Because you can never be cheap enough. So what do you guys think? We should do the jump start again?
Yeah, for sure.
So I've actually really started a new business called Think Up Your Business, and it's for people that start new businesses. And we were going to do jump start on that. How to start your own business. So maybe we'll have to be dream of your own career as your own career as a boss, dreaming of being your own boss, or something like that.
Yeah, there you go.
Sherry, thinking of that, yeah. Instead of dreaming of a career with horses, dreaming of being your own boss.
But another fun thing about the Jumpstart is the people you meet. I keep in touch with both the Christies, Sherry up in Canada. I mean, we're always chatting and trying to help each other out. And so that was a lot of fun, meeting people and, you know, staying in touch. That's another bonus of your Jumpstarts.
Yeah, that was like one of the reasons why we kept doing it, because we just developed these great relationships and everything. And we found that, you know, doing that half hour or the half day session in the beginning, where we all got together and told our story and our why, you know, why we were there and why we wanted to do this. That really created some awesome moments.
That was fun.
And it really got everybody just so bonded together. That we had, those were really some fun times.
Well, and I think Sherry was super at that. I can't speak to you, John, because you weren't at mine. But Sherry was amazing, because she literally had at the top of her head at all times who was in what area. Oh, that would be Sharon. Sharon's out towards, oh goodness, what is it, Colorado? Like, she was just boom, 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 and whoever everybody was, then you really felt like the family was there. And so now that's kind of the loss that's there at the moment. Like, we ended up, Kenny Neighbors and Jordan Bell and Ethelyn Churchwell and Leslie Tannehill Simmons and I all got together. We started a separate page called PMF Machine Owners Only, just so it was people that had already been through the jump starts, because those are the people we want to make sure we put our referrals to. We don't want to say, let me just look up on the map and find Joe Schmo that has a machine for you. So that was kind of the frustration for you guys left, was how to keep the quality that it was for every referral you refer to. So, I mean, that's a shameless plug, and I say that absolutely. But if you guys are here, go to that page, add yourself, be asked to be added to that page, because we certainly will. Those are the people we want to refer other people to in other states. So.
Yeah, and the Facebook group is PMF Machine Owners. I know I'm a member of it, and it's like one of the few groups that I actually pay attention to. So yeah, you guys are doing a good job at that, and
it's not like we post all the time. It's not like we're chattering all the time, but it's just a really good place for us to go, that we know anybody that's on that page. If we say, hey, I'm looking for somebody in Virginia, we know A, we're going to get a quick reply, and B, it's going to be somebody that knows what they're doing.
Right. Because that was the whole purpose of Life Pulse. That was really our total goal of having the Life Pulse network is to make sure that when you referred it to somebody at Life Pulse, they were Life Pulse trained, that you knew what they were going to get. They knew the protocol, they knew what they were doing, they knew how to do the treatment, at least at a basic level. You know, it was kind of like the franchise system, like there's a quality control level there, you know. Because really before that with Maglev, you just didn't have that. You had some people that really knew what they were doing. You had some people that didn't know anything. Some people would have it too light. Some people would have it way too heavy, you know, and some people that would just wave the magic wand and everything and, you know, not get the results. So that was our whole goal, was to try to create a community and to have this standard level where, and then what happened was, the unexpected consequence was the rising tide rise to all the boats. That we found that now everybody, since everybody was starting at a higher level, the innovation took hold and started bringing everybody up. And that was kind of the magic behind what really occurred.
Well, that was the bummer, because then when you left, they were still, what's the word for that? They were selling that story, right? The fact that people are then buying in, and then they're going, well, my business is just going to float because everybody else is floating. And instead, all they did was kind of pull everybody else down, because now we've got kind of a lack of quality going on. So as we go, you know, we've kind of got the old regime and the new regime. So the old regime is very well kind of schooled. We know each other. We're a family. Everybody pays attention to what everybody else is doing. We want to know the stories in between. We help each other out that way. And then all of a sudden you feel like the new people are coming in going, why am I not getting clients? That's all they want to know. They don't want to know everybody else's stories and where they came from and how it works and that type of stuff. So that's kind of the loss that was of that.
I can't really go into anything except that there is this possibility that has been presented to me of bringing it all together again. I'm just gonna say there. It may turn out to be even better than what it ever was, maybe, but yeah, there's an opportunity that's knocking that may be, you know, something good. So I don't want to say anything more because it'll jinx it.
I was going to say, if you need referrals, you know you have endless supplies. Referrals.
Yeah. We had something really special, and you know, it was really hard to walk away from it, and Sherry hurt her a lot, and you know, we've been really kind of searching for something to replace it, and but you know, there was a lot of people that recognized that it was something really special, and that want to go and move it forward again. So, you know, you never know what the future will hold. So it'll all be good. Yeah, Michaela, I wish I could come over there and you give me a little rub like that. That dog is just loving that. He's like,
this is Irene.
Irene. Oh.
Foxhound.
What is she?
She's my retired foxhound.
Oh, that's nice.
Hi. Say hi.
Nice. My two dogs are quietly sleeping under my feet and next to me.
She's just lost patience. She's like, I did feed her. She's like, wait, you're not paying attention to me. I've been home for 2 hours now. Like, what's going on? So
I know, and Angie's got her dog there, and then Tina, usually all I can see is dog.
Yeah.
So yeah, my dogs haven't been fed. They're like, what the heck? I was working, and I like go up and get them fed and everything, and Sherry is being with the baby, and all of a sudden I look at the clock, I'm like, oh my God, it's almost 7. Sorry, guys. So I guess that's all for this thing. We got any more questions? It's been fun. The third season, third PMF session has been a good one. I think we've trained like close to 60 people. So I think it's been worth doing. I'm not sure, what the next one is going to be. If we're going to do another one, or if we're going to do a jump start, or I said to Sherry, we should do a jump start. And she was like, what? I thought we were going to do that anymore.
I thought of something I wanted to ask you, John, only because I saw it on the private page, but they were discussing how New York State is with their racing commission at the moment. So I guess where to venture on that, like at the moment it's a mild threat, right? Because they're just saying you can't do it within 48 hours. They're not saying forever, because obviously all the drugs are like that in the racing world. And then the other one that's been going around a little bit, we just got not hit with it down in Aiken, but discussed, is that kind of the whole premise of if you're not veterinary licensed, then it's a kind of veterinary scope of practice. So the same problem New York is having. We now had a dentist in the area that's had an issue. So I wondered if you could just touch on that a little, kind of where the drugless practitioner portion of it might help us, assist us, where we might want to discuss that, where we're smart to keep it in our back pocket.
Yeah, and that was really one of the big motivations for doing the Drugless Practitioner Academy and offering the certification. I'm glad you brought that up, because first off, what's going on in New York is not anything new. This has been recirculating ever since I've been involved in it. I mean, New York has been constantly doing this. That's their veterinarians like stir this up every single. It seems like every year. The restrictions,
because it's like the sacrificial lamb, right? Like they need something to throw under the bus so that all their drugs can still be on board. It's almost like a sacrificial lamb. If we call PMF out, then that might be the new.
See, this is the thing though, is that the most of the racing community though understand. See, there is a large percentage of the racing community though that wants to keep the drugs. So yeah, there's some people that want to throw something under the bus, but the reality of it is that PMF is one of the few things that can make these horses feel better, perform better without the drugs. The vets, on the other hand, they're saying, oh, well, we don't want to have that as part of our thing, and you should ban that. But that is a really self-serving tack to take, and most of the politicians, they understand that. Politicians are only listening to the money. I mean, I don't want to be, jaded or anything, but that's true. So the vets have, a voice, but they don't necessarily have the pockets. The people that have the pockets are the racehorse owners. And the racehorse owners still are very in favor of PMF. Any racehorse owner. In fact, I'll just give you one example. I'm not going to say names, but they own a very big bookstore. And they got out of racing just because there was so much drugs and all that stuff. And they're very in favor of racing without drugs. And so you hear all this stuff, and you got to separate. Oh, is this stuff just noise, or is it really going to happen? And the New York Racing Board, they have been very restrictive as to who gets in and is able to treat. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because if you can become one of the few people that gets in, you are in. And Diane Volks is one of those people, and she has a gigantic business, but she's been in. And she has at least 6 practitioners treating under her, and some of the largest clients. Todd, some of the most winning racehorse trainers use her religiously, and they're a part of her, part of his training regimen. So, they're going to go back to people like him and say, Todd Pletcher, the top of the top. you know, what do you think about PMF? I like it. Keep it. Don't, you know, don't, okay. You know, they're going to listen to the money, not necessarily the self-serving, you know, veteran, the vets who are saying, you know, we want to fill our horses full of drugs. So this is all like not new at all. Now, the FEI thing, I'm sitting here, I actually have my application to go and become a permitted equine therapist. And there's an application now you fill out, and they will tell you if you're accepted. I don't know of anybody else that have filled it out, but one of the things that they're asking is provide specific training. What specific training that you have? You know, before we did this certification, there was nothing. I mean, Maglev certification, but it was meaningless, and anybody that knew anything about it knew it was meaningless. It was just done by the manufacturer. So this is the first American Drugless Practitioner has the first independent certification program. And I'm putting that on my qualifications, and that got me through the first round of saying, hey, I'm not only certified, but I created a certification, and we're now certifying, you know, a lot of members, because what they care about is that these people are trained and they have a vested interest in doing the right thing for the horses, that they're not going to do something that is going to make a lame horse look sound and then get injured. That's their main concern. So by they seeing, oh yes, there's continuing education, there's a certification, there's a minimum level of education, this is a group that we want to allow to come in. And so we'll see if I get through. But I have Will Simpson and Margie Engel being my two FEI sponsored riders, and I need a second vet. I have Wade Tenney, who is responsible for training all of the FEI vet delegates. So he's one of my sponsoring vets. I need a second vet, and I have two people that I'm hoping one of the two are going to step up. But then I get my application goes in, and in 3 weeks I'll know whether or not I'm approved. If I'm approved, then no reason why other people can't be approved.
So John, if I wanted to go ahead and do that after, you know, I get the certification through this, but I don't have connections to two sponsored riders necessarily. I mean, you know, like how would we go about that, making those connections if we need to have that, you know, in order to submit the application?
Here in Aiken, it will be easier because you can do a sponsored rider, have a discounted program. It's the vets. It's almost hard to get to the vets.
Yeah, but I called up Wade Tenney and I said, hey, Dr. Tenney, I talked to you at a show, and I wonder if you could sponsor me. He's like, sure.
Yeah, but he knows you already. I mean, like.
Not really.
How am I going to call up an FEI vet and be like, hey, my name is Michaela Enger. This is what I do. I'm filling out this application for this. I need a sponsorship from an FEI vet. Would you be willing to put your name on it?
And you know how I got to know him? Not that I really know him. I went to the FEI barn and I said, who's the vet delegate? Oh, I'm John Golitz. I do PMF. And he's like, yeah, I'm not going to let you in. But he sat there and talked to me for 5 minutes. And then the next time he was in town, I went there and knocked on his door and I said, yeah, hey, I'm John Golitz. I do PMF. You know, I'll show you my machine. Hey, you need treated, you know, and all that stuff. And then I ended up, you know, treating some horses before the FEI got closed down, you know, before they locked everybody up. And he started seeing me, okay, yeah, this guy's around. He keeps knocking on my door. And then he was like, okay, yeah, I've seen you before. You look like, you know, yeah, you look like a good guy. I'll do that. So how do you get in? You start going to the FEI events and you start talking to the vet delegates and start developing the relationships with the vet delegates and with the FEI riders. You just need two vet riders. They don't have to be Margie Ingles. They just need to be American FEI riders.
Which we have lots. Yeah, we do have lots of them.
A lot. Yeah. Yeah. They're competing. And you know, and just keep it in mind, you know, and you go there, you'll be surprised if you go to a vet and you go, you know, you tell them your story, tell them what you're doing. They just want to make sure that you're trained, you know, and now that you have a certification, independent certification, board certified, It's like, okay, this person's legit. You know, they seem to be here. They're not like here and gone. And like that was the rub of MagnaWave. That's one of the reasons why we had to get away from the MagnaWave thing, because MagnaWave went to the Rolex and just started to BS their way into it and said, oh yeah, we're trained all this stuff and we have Rolex people that want us to treat their horses. Well, they didn't, and the FEI called them on it. Like, who at Rolex do you want? And they couldn't produce a name. So like, these guys aren't for real. They're the people we want to keep out. And that's how PMF got into the compromised situation that it's been in. And we've just been with Laura Mangioli, with some of our other practitioners that have been going to the FEI and telling them our story, being respectful, being honest, and treating the horses the way that in accordance to their rules. They have rules. You can only treat in the treatment stall from 10 till noon. Okay, I'll do that. And you can't treat their legs. Okay, I won't treat their legs. It's like whatever the rules are, you do it. Okay, and you don't try to, blow anything past them. If they see you as being that, they will start to let you in. And now there's actually an application that allows you to do that. So if we'll see, but before it was like completely discretionary. The vet delegate could either let you or not let you. It was arbitrary.
With a lot of the vet delegates she dealt with, they would say exactly that. You have to treat in the treatment stall, blah, 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 and take it to get out of our treatment stuff. Go amongst the property wherever you wish. You know what I mean? Like at that point, they didn't go ahead. So it was exactly that. They definitely want to have some type of regulation in the system to know that you're valid.
Yeah. So, we're laying the groundwork really to be able to get in at the upper levels of the sport, and to have the New York Racing Board be like that. If I was more into racing, I'd be going to the New York Racing Board and I'd be trying to get approved. And because if you can get in, now you're in. And the harder it is to get in, the more once you get in, the more you have like protection. Like you just got yourself a franchise,
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think it was Diane that posted, so I think that's why she's got such a vested interest in the situation, is because that's her business. So,
oh, she wants to make it sound impossible. I mean, she's in, no one else will ever come in. Okay. Cause I told her when we went up and saw her, and Sherry and I drove up to Saratoga. We spent 4 days up there at Saratoga to meet with her and go over with her. She doesn't even use PMF on herself. They don't even understand. She doesn't understand anything. Like you two, everybody on this screen could outperform those guys. She just has the clients. You guys know more about PMF than she'll ever know. And she's in. So if you guys got into New York and you treated a horse after she treated a horse, you're going to get way better results and you're going to get the clients. So her vested interest is like, the door is closed. Sorry, it'll never happen. Yeah. So if you start hearing noise from her about like, oh yeah, this is, oh boy, it's going to just be impossible now. PMF is like, so, if you want a great business, go to New York. Seriously.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't go there. Taxes are too high.
Saratoga's beautiful in the summer.
I'll go back
there. So yeah, you get, when you hear stuff going on, you always have to consider the source. What is their motivation for saying this, and is it true? I mean, if there's one way if you want to get me to do something, tell me I can't do it. And I'll figure out a way.
Well, and it was cute. I found, I had seen the post on, I don't know, I was looking up tendon something. I wanted to find the National Institute of Health on tendon recovery. So I Google searched it, and of course, one of the things that comes up is the top 10 PEMF machines for 2019. And none of which are recognizable, right? Like, I'm not even sure Beamer fell in there, if it even, right? So all these ones that you hear about perpetually aren't even in there. And so the funny part was I posted it on the private page and said, you know, how can we get call centers to jump on this and say, hey, here, try our machine, and we'd like you to test it out and compare. And I'll be damned, Pete Cranfield over there in Australia was awesome. First thing he did was posted it into his business page. And he was like, you know, posted it exactly like he said. Don't be affected by companies that are trying to boost their machines by putting out fake news. It was like a cool way to do it because you don't think to do that, where that was pretty genius of it.
Yep. Yep. Well.
So like you said, kind of every time you see a post, think where it is and who it's benefiting, and then you can kind of backtrack the system.
Yeah. What's the source?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What are they going for? So.
What's the motivation for the thing? Yeah. Yeah. Because nowadays you can really put anything out there.
And I think that's a great point, because that's exactly, as soon as something starts kind of floating around social media, you're going to hear about it as a practitioner every single time somebody hears about something. For some reason, oh goodness, Amp Coil started posting like crazy down here and doing boost posts and everything else through South Carolina. And so all my clients were asking me, Amp Coil, what about Amp Coil? What about Amp Coil? I'm like, you know, it's one of those, you feel like if you're the first to hear about it, you might as well just dispel it quick, throw it on your own business page and say, hey, you hear about this? I welcome you to give it a try, but it's nothing in comparison, and my clients can vouch, you know, and just kind of leave it at that.
Yep. Yep. Well, there is a very definite strategy among in Google, is that, so if you want to outrank somebody, then what you need to do is you need to provide an overwhelming abundance of information. You need to have like the definitive source on that. So if someone puts out like a little blurb about something and it gets ranked into Google so that people can start finding it, you know, or if it gets into social media, the best way to counteract that is to go really deep into that point, and you know, just provide like all kinds of background information on what it is that they're saying, why it's not true, you know, evidence, you know, but make it 2,000 to 5,000 words at least, and then post it and get people to repost it and share it, and that way the you know, well, you know, there's this little piece of information that's out there, but then like the definitive thing will come over it and will completely knock that out. So then someone, when they're Googling it, because most of the time they're going to Google it, they're going to read one thing, maybe two, and then that's it. So if they read the thing that is like, this is the definitive thing on it, oh, well, they hear the whole story. They probably most people won't read the whole story, but that's be the thing that they'll get to first. The other stuff just goes off the page. So if you find that there's something that you really want to counter it with force and overwhelming abundance of information.
See, and that's where I wish pulse centers would, and Pulse Equine in particular, would be more aggressive in that way. You know, I mean, they are consistently, I don't even think in the top 10 half the time, maybe not even in the top 20. And, you know, they're also utilizing a pretty poor platform for their website, which tends to crash quite a bit.
Like today.
Like today. You know, and their SEO is horrible. I mean, they're not even doing the basic, you know, 101. And it's really frustrating to me as a pulse equine practitioner, you know, and
because that's the trick. It's gotten to a point they don't care about the practitioners. Yeah. They care about selling a machine and upgrading your machine.
And the
that's
info,
what they want to do.
Yeah, that's it.
Good. You know, I mean, it's so frustrating. And I just kind of keep my mouth shut in a way and rely on all of you guys and not rely on them at all, you know?
Yeah. Well, when we were Life Pulse, we had, you do any of the main keywords and we would be like the first 5 things.
Yeah.
We would be our several pages on our website, our Facebook page, we would have at least the top 3 to 5 listings in all the keywords.
Yeah.
And now.
Yeah, they're dropping the ball big time on that. I mean, whoever is in charge of that for them, if I was working for that company, I'd be having a very serious conversation about their future with pulse centers, pulse equine. I mean,
yeah, because we recognize that right off. That was the source of our leaving, was that they wanted to take over the marketing. I'm like, you guys don't know what the hell you're doing.
Yeah. And that, unfortunately, in contrast, you take a look at Maglev and the marketing that they do. I mean, they put it out there. It's, it's quick, it's flashy. They've got, little products out there that people can, digest and then regurgitate. And some of it is not true.
Yeah, I was searching today for this this person in some company called Oxford something. Like they were outranking pulse centers. Like, what the hell?
I think it's the same concept of if you sell your practitioners as super knowledgeable and then they're selling your business for you. So every one of us is now a salesperson for other people buying machines for, you know what I mean? So it progresses the business that way, and they've stopped doing that. They sell the machine only and then drop you, which I found, I don't remember if I told you this, when I went up to World Equestrian Games at Tryon, and I went to the booth and I had texted all the practitioners that I knew were there that day. And I said, everybody stay away from the booth for a second. I'm going to go in and I'm going to act like I know nothing. I'm not going to be me. I'm going to walk in and just act like I know nothing and see what they say and see what I can learn from them. And it took me over an hour, and I finally had to put the words in their mouth. And I said, well, I know like in my area, we have like a girl, I think she does like Maglev, but she'll come to your place and do your courses. Is there something like that you guys have? And it was after an hour that they'd even tell you that there were practitioners you could hire. Because I asked. They only wanted to sell a machine. Only for the entire hour I was there.
Yeah,
the
so
funniest,
it's nothing about helping people. And
the funniest part of the
horses
situation was actually this. I texted all the practitioners I knew were there, and I walked in and did the whole thing. What do we got here? What are all these chairs? Acting dumb, right? And then I feel a person to my right, and I turn around, and I'll be damned if it's not one of my freaking clients from Aiken. We looked at me, shut up, don't say anything. And I was like, hey, how are you? She had hurt her knee and was needing a pulse session, but was trying to act stupid because she wanted to get a free pulse session from them. We were dying for the hour we sat there going, how do you know? Oh, just riding. It's a small world.
Oh, that's funny.
Thousands of people at World Equestrian Games, and those are the two of us. The two.
Who was there?
It was Janelle and Ashley and oh God, what's his name?
Was Abraham there? Abraham?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's the one that called me. Yeah.
He was at the table and he wouldn't get up and talk to us. Like it was so bizarre. And like I said, I finally had to put the words in their mouth by saying, I've got a Maglev practitioner in my area that will come out and do my course because I don't have the time to do it. That was my time to do it. And that's after an hour how they finally would say, well, you can.
That's too bad.
Yeah. And I went, seriously? Took you that long?
That's terrible.
Yeah. So as a newbie, I'm pretty frustrated. So thank goodness for this. Thank goodness that Kenny was like, you need to do this, Kayla. This will be good for you. And, thank goodness too that I had her and,
Yeah.
I owe this to you.
God, I hope it goes good.
Wow.
Well, yeah, it's one of those things where we're trying to feel out where our role is in this whole PMF thing, and It's evolving.
Yeah.
It's evolving as it should, I guess.
Well, that's what I keep explaining to everybody, and even talking to my sister about it, and say we're really lucky that we're still on literally like a ground level of it.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be frustrated that we're still meeting people who know about it. That should never frustrate us. That should only excite us more to be like, oh my God, there's that much more of a market.
That doesn't frustrate me at all. What frustrates me when I'm talking about is the lack of support from the company. But no, I think it's awesome that people don't know, because it's an easy hook. Be like, oh, you haven't heard of it. You know, this is what it is. Want to sit in the chair? You know?
Especially how many people that are finally grasping the concept of what, you know, that the country is run by pharmaceuticals, you know, that they want to take charge of their own health. They want to take
and
charge.
they see that now more than ever, too.
Yeah,
Like, it's really,
right.
that message is definitely hitting home with a lot of the news lately, and the increase in pricing, and, you know, the whole EpiPen thing, and, you know, some of the other major drugs that people rely diabetics, insulin, you know, and all
Insulin, yeah.
that, you know, I mean, it's really starting to hit home with a lot of people. So
That's exciting. I think it's exciting as all get out.
Yeah, well, the light came off. The light came on for me when my wife's mother was in the, you know, she had her hip. They thought that it needed to be replaced, and it got replaced, and then the therapist made her do some exercises, and it got broke again, and they said, well, then we'll just have to do another surgery on her. And then her health just basically fell off, you know, like just went downhill so fast. And then finally got some healthcare professionals that looked at her and really did an evaluation and found out she is just riddled with cancer. And they're like, well, shouldn't the people that operated on her hip know that? And like, I was like, yes, they would absolutely do that. So they went in 2 operations. Her hip is filled with cancer. And I'm like, you know, you cannot affect the change to the healthcare system if you are in the healthcare system. You know, the only way that we're ever really going to come out and make a change in the healthcare system is if we're outside of the healthcare system. So alternative healthcare professionals, practitioners that are doing alternative things to traditional medicine, they really are going to be the only chance of us changing the system, because the system is designed to promote the system. The specialists are designed to promote their own specialization. There's nobody that's left that's really their responsibility is for the patient. And so as an alternative healthcare provider, the conversation that we all need to be having is about the patient and how can we raise the overall wellness of the patients. And if you're doing that with drugs and with surgeries and specializations where all they're interested in is their own specialization, it's the system has been designed and has been and proliferated based on promoting that. So you can't, it's just not going to happen to staying in the system. And as an alternative healthcare provider, like PMF is, we really have the opportunity to be looking at people's, and especially with PMF, because we really look at the whole body, the whole person, and promote health for the entire person. And that's really the only way that the healthcare system is going to move forward. Otherwise, we're just going to have more of the same. You know.
I'll say, so remember my video, right? Everybody loved my video. You'll have to go back and look at the troll that ended up commenting on my video. Yeah. Oh my goodness gracious. Just go look at it, John. Your face will get worse. Because he just raged, absolutely raged. I mean, straight to the point. He told me he was going straight to hell and I was going to fill up hell and it was going to need a clean out. That from my video. How
from your
Which video?
Yes.
the one
Someone said that on your video?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
he was
do you know what you do with people like that? I mean, I hate to say that. You delete them.
Well, no, I left it because this was the really funny part. So he raged, and then he said, well, you shouldn't keep it a secret what it is. I said, oh, no, I welcome everybody to go to my page, check it out. It's PMF. It's this wonderful thing. But the sessions do take an hour, so I can't show you what I do all the time. but I welcome you to research it, right? And it was all very professional. And then he raged again, and he said, oh, well, then rather than asking people for money, you should have still shown what you do. And so at that point I said, you're correct. I do this as my business, but you also have to keep in mind, so do doctors, so do pharmaceutical companies, and so do pharmacists. None of them do that for free either. It's just a matter of what you choose to subject your body to. So I left it, because how professional can you look in doing that, where this guy's like, I mean, he looked like a raging idiot, but it was perfect because so that's what everybody said. They're like, just delete him. I'm like, no, it's awesome. It's awesome. Say that.
We have that ongoing conversation. It's like, do you let the people that are there, you know, really obviously just bringing up any negativity that they can, and then you make your counter, you know, okay, so this is what you're saying, this is your point, so this is my counterpoint, and let it just sit there, or do you just delete them? You know, we found that over time, you know, you can't argue with crazy.
No. Well, I had another woman who obviously very clearly did not have horses. She had gotten it as, you know, from the human side or something, and she's like, she wasn't even touching her in that last video. It's the same pressure. When you do a skin drag, it takes barely nothing. I mean, they feel a fly. We all know that in the horse world, they feel a fly. But I shouldn't have to explain this. So I simply replied to her, and I was like, oh no, you can ask your vet or your equine chiropractor, and they'll tell you that doing a skin drag, nobody should ever be putting more pressure than I do. And I basically left it showing like my professionalism is, I know what I'm doing, I know why I'm doing it, I don't have to answer to you. You can ask another professional the same time, you know, and kind of left it at that, but I was like, you don't even have horses, lady.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, that's good. You that was a really excellent video, and that's a good comment. You know, my thought has always been, if you're not upsetting the apple cart at some point, you know, you're probably, you know, not out there enough, and there are people that, you know, you gotta, if you're upsetting somebody, at least you're, you know, making some waves. So there's a saying about that somewhere. I didn't come to mind, but I don't know.
Nice girls don't make history, or
What is that?
What is it? Nice girls don't make history.
There's some good saying. I don't know. I'll probably remember, you know, as soon as we get off. But
Yeah, if they're picking on you, they're leaving somebody else alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have a habit of going over in this group, so we are over, and my dogs are wanting to be fed, and it's been a great 8 weeks. I really appreciate you guys coming and participating, and I hope you got something out of this, and make sure you take the test, and you can take the test as much as you want. What we like to do is there's a link that you'll get, and you go online and you just take the test, and it will tell you right then whether or not you passed or you failed. I think you have to have, it's 40 questions. I think you can get a couple wrong or something like that. If you don't pass it, just take it again. It'll tell you what questions you got wrong and what the answer is, so just take it again. And then we kind of do it in groups, you know, like we get a bunch of people together, and then we send out you get a really nice little frameable certificate, and we give you an electronic version as well as a paper version. But Sherry's responsible for that, and she does it in batches. So we don't do them individually, because it takes just as much time to send out 10 of them as it does one of them. But so I really appreciate you guys doing this, and stay tuned for future developments. There's bound to be some really fun stuff coming down. Maybe a jump start.
That would be fun. I'd love to.
Maybe a lot more.
Cool. That's exciting to hear, John. Yeah.
So thanks a lot, you guys.
Thank you.
Go out and pulse somebody.
Bye. Have a good night.
Have fun.